All right, so this is layout for an email or letter. And it's good that I'm recording it because maybe I can share it with the rest of the group and hopefully they'll have the opportunity to watch it. Number four, layout for an email or letter. As you know, I'm not a big fan of these expressions, but let's read it anyway. It's very philosophical and I'm not going to get into philosophy. But this guy says there are no rules in writing. There are useful principles. Will Shetterly, American novelist. The above quote is particularly appropriate when talking about emails. The reason is that this modern channel of written communication does not always have fixed outlines, and different types of writers adopt different approaches and layouts. As business letters traditionally have a fixed layout, many email writers use this as a starting point for their structure. However, it is important to differentiate between different types of business emails as follows. Number one, formal emails written in the style of business letters. Number two, emails written in the style of informal letters. Number three, email exchanges in the style of phone calls, but written down. Number four, email responses or acknowledgments written in a very concise or informal way, often using no more than a single phrase and an initial as a signature. Thanks for the info. John Wick. Types 1 and 2, which are number 1 and 2, above can generally follow the classical structure of a letter. Here's a typical structure for a business letter. Greeting, introduction, reference purpose, main content, pre-closing and the next steps, closing and signature. So the ones that are created in paragraphs with at least 3 sentences, or 4 or 5, are the introduction, the main content, and the pre-closing and the next steps. Closing and signature and greeting can be really short words. So greeting, hello, how are you? Merry Christmas. Very short. Closing, truly yours. Honestly, etc. I mean, dearly, dear. Closing can be very short, and the signature is also very short. It's just the signature. The introduction, you talk about, like, give the person an introduction of the topic. For example, let's talk about Shark Tank. What is your purpose? Well, in the following lines, I'm going to compare Megan with Nick Romero. Okay. The main content, that's where we compare, the body language, the sales presentation, the money that was given to Nick or the money that was offered to Megan Cummings for her company USmell, and in the next steps in the closing, especially if it's a business letter, we can talk about the agreement or the procedure that we have followed. But 2, 3, and 4 require a full paragraph. So when transferring this business letter model to an email, it is necessary to add a meaningful subject line. You can find examples of a specific language for each of these phrases in Appendix 1. In contrast, types 3 and 4, email exchanges in the style of phone calls, and email responses or acknowledgments written in a very concise or informal way, generally don't have a formalized structure. As John's brief acknowledgement above shows, they have informational content. For example, they convey a message, but it is difficult to establish any rules for the structure. So, where does this leave email writers? You need to decide what type of email you're writing. In particular, the formality or informality of the relationship with your reader will help you decide whether you need to follow the classical model of a business letter or whether it's appropriate to use a more informal approach. In conclusion, in the format of email writing is less about formal rules and more about a flexible approach to email structure. Different layouts for different audiences. Layout for an email or letter. Useful tips for writing formal documents. Break up your document into meaningful sections so that your reader can easily get an overview. Put white space between the paragraphs. Don't create unnecessary white space. It makes the document unfocused and difficult to read. Use headings, bulleted lists, and bold type to help readability. Avoid underlining. Use phrases from Appendix 1 to create transparent structure. For writing informal documents, emails can be written as you would speak. Remember to remain friendly and polite. Number 1, the paragraphs and bulleted lists in the following 3 emails have been mixed up. Decide in which order the paragraph should appear, and then rewrite the emails in the correct order. To Nick Jones at Vio.com. Subject, schedule. Lisa, please, could you let me know whether you would be interested in working on the main tasks as outlined above? The additional notes, I realize you don't have much information yet and may not be able to give us an answer. Okay, so what's happening here is that all these paragraphs here or segments are not in the correct order. So all we're gonna do is put them in the correct order. If I were to read them like this, many thanks for getting, we're still best wishes, it doesn't make a lot of sense because it's not in the correct order. I look forward to hearing from you. Dear Nick. The same exercise, we're gonna do the same thing for this one. If I read this, it doesn't make any sense because it's not in the correct order. We need to put it in the correct order by following these 3 emails, by following this right here: greeting, introduction, content. We need to identify which one is which so we can put them in the correct order. That happens with emails 1, 2, and 3. And let's go to the last part, cultural note. In recent years, email has developed as a channel of choice for both national and international written communication. However, without agreed standards for email writing, writers have felt free to use their own preferred practices based on cultural norms or personal style. At an intercultural level, this has led to an emergence of a variety of features, some of which may seem unusual to some writers. One example is the blending of social and professional exchanges within the same document. Does a writer who start their email with the phrase "How are you" really expect a response? Or is it simply a polite phrase as one would expect in a face-to-face encounter? When it comes to emails, a chatty style at the beginning of a professional document might well be a feature of the writer's personality. So we can be very flexible. We can write emails different ways because people write different ways. An email is not a formal business letter. It can be a formal business letter if you structure it like so. If not, it can be you can write in the style of phone calls. You can write informal letters. You can write a business letter, or you could also give short responses like "Thanks for the info, John." Especially when you're just back like ping pong back and forth. Because you've already started the thread. Maybe you start the thread, and I do that all the time. I start the conversation formally, but then the conversation, as you continue to follow up, it gets really informal. Why? Because maybe you in the previous email you've already sent best wishes, or you've already sent your contact info, your phone number, your WhatsApp. So obviously the following lines are just thanks, goodbye, see you. Really short. Also because I believe it's practical, because people don't want to, every time you say hello, they don't have time to read a long business letter. So that's my recommendation. Start with number 1, formal, write very formally, but then we know that the conversation is going to become like a back and forth follow-up. So that in this case, we can be a little bit flexible with the rules.